in the catacombs, walking what seems like forever to underneath the streets. I think we have finally gotten there.
They stretched southwards around what is now the Place d'Enfer Rocher, where you came into the catacombs. Remember that at the time the 14th arrondissement was outside the city limits. The first quarries out and gradually abandoned. In the next commentary you'll hear how the disused quarries were converted in the late 18th century.
In the capital and its suburbs were gradually worked out and then abandoned, leaving hundreds of hectares of empty space underground, with very little reinforcement. More and more large structures were built above them in the 18th century. With its houses, mansions, convents, churches, and public monuments, Paris had become Ricard de Thury was only 33 when he took over the supervision of the quarries from Guillemot in 1809. The catacombs did not escape the upheavals of the French Revolution. They were neglected. Proper setting for them. Sylvie Robin, chief curate, had the amazing idea of transforming the ossuary, where bones had been piling up for more than 30 years, into one of the This is the Empire of Death. This is a phrase often engraved on the funerarians. Antiquity, as it invites the passerby to take the time to reflect and think of the dead. And the Empire of Death is a more menacing expression. It is taken from a sermon by Bossuet, and it warns visitors about entering. This Alexandrine, a warning to the visitor, is the first in a long litany of maxims as you go along. They were chosen by Ricard de Thury himself. In his words, he wanted to
break the sinister and dark monotony of this youth. For life, an idea that's as sweet, as necessary, as it's comforting for those who are mourning.
Ricard de Thury also had stone plaques carved inside the ossuary, from which you can identify where the bones came from and when they were moved here. Was on the point of collapsing. The base had deteriorated because the organic material is very susceptible to the damp, and we decided to restore it. We carry out 2 sessions per year with a specialist team supported by a restoration expert. It takes a week, and we proceed by taking down all the bones, sorting them and putting them back in place one by one, following the original model of alt, which was specially placed there to keep the wall of bones off the ground, and one can admire its perfect alignment. Now you follow the path to the fountain of the Samaritan woman. All the decorations put in place by Ricard de Thury was done to embellish the supporting columns, which held up the quarry roof, but the fountain of the Samaritan woman is a real well, which was originally in the quarry. Is a spring that was once used by the quarrymen. A small circular area was built around it, with walls made of bones from the Cemetery of the Innocents. The fountain takes its name from a story in the Gospel of St. John, in which Jesus stopped beside a well and entered into conversation with a Samaritan woman. When she questioned him, he answered in these words, which you can read on one of the pillars at the back.
Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life.
In November 1813, the fountain was used for a scientific experiment. 4 goldfish were placed in it. After 2 years, Ricard de Thury found that they had adapted to their new environment. Either remaining on the surface or going to the bottom of the pool. Since the temperature underground stayed constant all year round, he thought this unlikely to be true. It was not just the people killed in the August 1788 riots who were taken to the catacombs. The
The 3 funerary monuments around you are reminders of some of the popular uprisings that took place immediately before the revolution in 1788 and during it in 1789 and 1792.
Securing the release of a famous prisoner, Jean-Henri de la Tour, from the Bastille. The participants had been sent the following invitation.
You're invited to attend the religious and secular concert by famous notes. Entrance via number 92 Rue d'Arreau from 11 p.m. To make sure that curious bystanders do not block the entrance, please do not have carriages stop at the door. This is a personal invitation. One of Louis XVI's brothers, the future Charles X, came to see them with ladies of the court. It was not until the First Empire that they were first opened to the public. Ericard de Thury himself escorted some of the curious visitors who crowded in. He had a black line drawn on the quarry ceiling to help visitors find their way. The Emperor of Austria, living in Paris as the victor, visited the catacombs in May 1814 after the defeat of Napoleon I, while the Russian regiments camped nearby